In 4 weeks, state lawmakers will be back at the Texas Capitol for a special session. The big topic they'll be focused on is regulating THC products in Texas after the governor vetoed a ban on consumable THC hemp. Joining us now is Scott Braddock, Capitol reporter and editor of Harvey Kronberg's Quorum Report. Scott, thank you for joining us.
Good to see you, Darrenisha. How are you?
I'm great. First, after all of the controversy about the THC ban, were you surprised to see the governor vetoed it? And what do you think could come of the upcoming special session?
You know, I've talked to Ashley about this previously, and I was ready to be surprised either way, really. I mean, the governor on this didn't tip his hand at all in covering him, going back to when he was attorney general, and then the last decade in the current office that he's in. He's become generally pretty predictable. I generally, Darrenisha, know what he's going to do. I don't make predictions for a living, but on this. It was a 50-50 shot. It was jump ball, really. I mean, he consistently said he was considering all the arguments that were being made about this and arguments that were being made by well-funded lobbyists, by the way, on both sides of this argument. And when it came down to it last night, I think it was about 11:22 in the evening on Sunday, on the deadline, when he could make this decision, he came down and said he's not going to go along with this all-out ban on THC. The reason I wouldn't be surprised by it is because the Republican voters of the state don't agree with a ban on THC. We reported at quorumreport.com multiple polls, and the first poll that we put out there for folks was a poll that was actually conducted by the little governor, Dan Patrick's pollster, a guy in Austin who found that 57% of Texas Republican voters want to see something more like the regulation of alcohol. They want to see something like that apply to THC. And only, I think the number was 29% of Republican voters wanted to see a full ban that Patrick was pushing for. I was a little surprised by Patrick's performance this afternoon in his news conference, which I'm sure you saw, where he was saying that the governor acted in bad faith, that he never told Patrick that he was going to do this, that he was going to side with those who are against the ban. But at the same time, Patrick said that he might not be able to keep the governor's proposal on this, which is to regulate THC, essentially. That Patrick might not be able to keep that from happening in a special session that's coming up in just a few weeks, as you said.
Yeah, something we don't see very often, Dan Patrick talking against the governor.
No.
Right. So what do you make of the other topics the governor put on the special session call?
The big one that we're waiting on isn't so far in the mix, and that's redistricting, which, and you may have seen these reports, the New York Times covered this, and it's been talked about nationally, the idea that President Trump wants to see there be more Republicans in Congress from Texas. And there is a question about how feasible that is. The last redistricting cycle was one in which the Republicans and Democrats basically agreed that they would have an incumbent protection program for members of both parties. But it's possible that some tweaks could be made in South Texas, in and around some of the major cities as well, like Houston and Dallas-Fort Worth, to maybe add some more Republican members of Congress from Texas. But that's going to be tricky because when you start moving those lines and you make those districts more competitive for Republicans in certain areas, that means that you then have a shifting map, and you might end up having some Republicans in other parts of the state who are next door to some of those districts. Suddenly they would have districts that look more purple rather than solidly red, and so they would have some competitive races as well, and potentially could put as many as 6 to 10 incumbent Republican congressmen from Texas in danger in their elections next year in a Trump midterm, when I would expect that Democrats would do pretty well like they did in 2018, which was his first midterm.
Another big topic we didn't see on the list is abortion pill regulations. Were you shocked not to see that as well?
A little surprised. It's worth noting, though, that the governor could add that either before the special session starts or when it's actually happening. You might remember back in 2014, more than a decade ago, when then Senator Wendy Davis, a Democrat from Fort Worth, she filibustered a major piece of abortion legislation. In that special session, the topic of abortion was not on the agenda at first. That was when Rick Perry was still governor. And at that time, it was Attorney General Greg Abbott who convinced Rick Perry that he could do a short special session. Get this, Darrenisha. The topic was redistricting. They started with redistricting, and then about 2 weeks into the special session, abortion was added, and suddenly that hot topic flared up at the Capitol and led to all kinds of controversy that summer. So we could see something similar this time around too.
I was going to ask you, do you think we could have multiple special sessions this go around?
Absolutely. And look, I mean, the way that the lieutenant governor is dug in about his all-out ban on THC, it reminds me of 2 years ago when the lieutenant governor and the governor did not agree on the details of how to do property tax relief, how to deliver that for Texans, and that precipitated 2 special sessions to kick off that summer 2 years ago, and then that was followed by several more special sessions later that year about other topics, including the governor's school voucher proposal and some other things. And then there were immigration debates and all sorts of other things that broke out that year. So it's not a done deal by anybody's measure here, and we're going to see how far the fight how far it really goes between the lieutenant governor and the governor. I thought it was interesting during the press conference today that Patrick did say that some version of, and as we mentioned, some version of a THC regulation piece of legislation could pass the Texas Senate, even though he says he's not for it. It was an interesting message. It kind of muddled from the lieutenant governor when he's usually pretty clear about what he's saying.
Yeah, I expect we can get some clarification on that in this special session. Were there any bills added to this special session call that kind of left you scratching your head, or you didn't expect to be on this call list?
No, the governor had added a few things that have to do with the recording of real property and some other things that I think are just sort of cleanup things. Look, this is a governor who is a former attorney general, somebody who started his career as a state district court judge down in Houston, and he's a stickler for the law. He and his staff, they go through all of these bills, with a fine-tooth comb and look at what's, in each piece of legislation. And sometimes it's not necessarily that he even disagrees with the overall idea of something that lawmakers are trying to do, but he might disagree with them about the details of it. And one thing about this governor that is unique, as opposed to the way Governor Rick Perry operated or the way former Governor George W. Bush operated, those guys both really liked to mix it up with lawmakers during the session and let them know in real time what they thought of their legislation and whether certain things could be changed about it. This governor doesn't do that, and I think part of that is because, as a former judge, he thinks that the lawmakers ought to make their arguments, send it to his desk, and then he'll decide whether he likes it or not, and that ends up being the way that he communicates with them is through his vetoes. He will say, I don't hate this bill. We could change it up a little bit, and then I might be able to sign it. And you're seeing some of that with some of the things that are on the special session agenda.
All right, a lot of work left to be done at the Capitol. Scott, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, I'll try to get some rest in between now and then. Thank you, Darren Nisha.
Please do.